All right, we're going to get going in about 2 or 3 minutes. So you're putting...
We'll put Teresa over here, right?
Weldon here.
Yep, Weldon here.
And then...
no, we're going to do...
But then did you want to put Lindsay... Oh, Lindsay and the trooper back here?
Lindsay and the trooper in the back. So you're going to have the trooper then New York folks and Lindsay and New Jersey folks.
Okay, I'll just move them when they get in here. I'm going to turn the thing around. Where are you guys from?
Mike. Lindsay. Okay. Lindsay. Okay. So, and Teresa, Powell, Trooper.
Okay. That sounds good.
And then just, yeah.
Okay.
I'll move this tape so it doesn't confuse anybody.
Sorry, guys.
Stop. 1, 2. Move over. All right, they're not upstairs. All right. Perfect.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here. Joining me today are First Assistant Attorney General Lindsay Rotolo, Director of the Division of Criminal Justice Teresa Hilton, and Chief of the Division of Criminal Justice Walden Powell, Deputy Chief Gannon, Lieutenant Henry, Sergeant Cabrera, Detectives Carey and Ventura from the NYPD, Lieutenant Corey Rodriguez from New Jersey State Police, as well as a host of investigators and prosecutors who work tirelessly on this case across jurisdictional lines. I want to thank them, and first and foremost, I want to thank the 42,000 law enforcement officers of New Jersey who do great work every day to make our state safe. If we could just silence everybody's phones, please. I want to thank all the 42,000 officers in our state and NYPD officers who continue to do great work to keep the residents of our state safe, and I'm really proud to be with them today. Each day, millions of New Jerseyans rely on their cars to get to work, to go shopping, to pick up their kids, to go about their daily lives. Car thieves and the auto theft rings they work for pass our driveways and parking lots, and they see only what they think is an easy way to make money. These brazen auto thefts don't just take someone's property, they take away our sense of safety and security in our own homes. And while the vehicles may be able to be replaced, getting back that sense of safety and security is often a much more difficult task. Auto theft is certainly not unique to New Jersey, but easy access to neighboring states, to ports, and international waters make us particularly susceptible to organized auto theft rings. And it's just a fact that car theft is not unique to any one community within our state. It's both an urban problem and a suburban problem. And in many cases, auto theft can, and often does, lead to other more violent crimes, such as residential burglaries, robberies, and even shootings. Combating auto theft has been a top priority of mine since I took office. We've tackled it through public education, by accumulated data, by tracking stolen vehicles, and through incredible investigative work, often in collaboration with local and federal law enforcement, and importantly with neighboring states, as you see we have done here today. So today I'm really proud to announce that after a several months long investigation led by the Division of Criminal Justice, the New Jersey State Police, and the NYPD, an investigation into a high-end auto theft ring that was operating both in New Jersey and in the Bronx, we've arrested 11 people, including one juvenile, for their roles in a far-reaching criminal enterprise that stretched from communities in Morris, Essex, Mercer, Middlesex, and Burlington counties to the shores of West Africa. Investigators found that between July 2024 and this month, the criminal enterprise that we charge today coordinated the theft of motor vehicles in multiple New Jersey counties. The vehicles were then taken to the Bronx before being shipped and eventually sold overseas. The defendants in this case allegedly engaged in the theft of movable property, residential burglaries, receiving stolen motor vehicles, fencing, and the financial facilitation of criminal activity, and conspiracy. Most are charged with first-degree crimes for the parts they played in this enterprise. The top promoters and organizers, known only by their nicknames Big G and E, identified high-end vehicles including Land Rovers, Mercedes-Benz, and BMWs for the theft crews to steal. These crews would then often commit residential burglaries in order to facilitate their high-end vehicle theft. And after the cars were stolen, they were taken to the Bronx. In the Bronx, middle-level and high-level fences that we identify as received the cars, paid the theft crews, and stored the vehicles in parking garages until they could be shipped overseas, again, most frequently to West African countries. Over the course of this investigation, 43 stolen New Jersey vehicles with a combined value of more than $3.6 million were identified in 2 Bronx parking garages. Several stolen vehicles stored in these garages were then recovered from shipping containers destined for West African countries at the ports of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and Staten Island, New York. Theft crews were paid for stolen vehicles with cash from money wired from Africa to the mid-level and high-level fences. the total value of stolen vehicles linked to specific theft crews that committed residential burglaries to steal cars was well over $500,000, $542,000. So again, auto theft is not unique to New Jersey. In 2024, about 850,000 cars were stolen nationwide, including thousands of vehicles from New Jersey. But our efforts have helped drive that number down considerably. Just months ago, we announced that in 2024, auto thefts declined by 11% over 2023. And since I took office, high-end auto thefts, like the ones we're talking about here, are down by about a third. That drop has been made possible in large part through the coordinated effort that we run through our Auto Theft Task Force, which we use to identify individuals and groups most responsible for auto thefts, as well as the areas they target. Again, you see today, these rings are often organized and drive significant numbers of our auto thefts. But as long as auto theft remains a lucrative multi-billion-dollar business, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration estimates that it costs vehicle owners more than $8 billion each year. We're going to continue to increase our efforts to prevent it and catch those responsible. And before I turn the podium over to Director Hilton, I want to reinforce our commitment to this work, and I want to touch on something that I mentioned the other day because it's relevant to this investigation. Earlier this week, I announced that we unceremoniously were notified that millions of dollars of federal grants to law enforcement were clawed back or cut without any notice. And those are funds that allow us to do this work. They're funds that allow us to combat the opioid epidemic, which I noted and I repeat, last year 30% reduction in drug-related deaths in New Jersey. They allow us to combat bias crimes, which we do every single day. And it also included, we have uncovered since Wednesday, over $1 million for automated license plate reader technology. Now, many people probably don't think about ALPRs, as we call them, but they are arguably the most critical tool we have to combat auto theft and violent crime. We use them in cases like this. We use them to combat shootings. We use them to keep our residents safe. And so over $1 million in funding that was going to expand our auto theft capability, or our capabilities to combat auto theft, to combat violent crime, was cut without notice. In fact, the only thing we were told was that priorities had changed at the Department of Justice. So I don't know what the priorities are if they're not doing this work. And you may have seen State PBA issued a very strong statement opposing these cuts alongside us. I think I would encourage the administration to stop listening to whatever nerds they have running spreadsheets and start listening more to law enforcement that is telling them what we need to keep our residents safe. So I'm incredibly proud to join the men and women behind me in doing this work in New Jersey and in New York to keep our residents safe, where we have driven crime down to historically low levels. And today's announcement exemplifies our commitment and the results that can be achieved when we work collaboratively across jurisdictional lines. I want to thank the members of the DCJ team, Deputy Attorneys General Jacqueline Dowd and Amy Hyde, who are prosecuting this case under the supervision of Deputy Chiefs Joe Giordano and Matthew Bernal, and Bureau Chief Cassandra Montalto. This investigation in the Division of Criminal Justice was led by Detective Christopher Montalvo, Detective Aaron Muse, Detective Roosevelt McKinney, under the supervision of Lieutenant Yarek Przanowski and Sergeant Michael Gonzalez. But again, this kind of takedown that we're announcing today can only be achieved through the intense cooperation we have, which is relatively unique to our region. Our state, we have very strong cooperation across all levels of law enforcement, which historically has included the federal government. And regionally, we have incredibly tight relationships with our partners across the river in NYPD and in the DA's office, and I'm extremely grateful to them as well as to the state police and all of the partners who worked on this case. I think our law enforcement community here knows we are not separate worlds across the river, that when we work together, crime that often starts in New Jersey will link to New York and vice versa, and we take our responsibility to work together seriously, and it produces high-level cases like the one we're announcing today. So now it's my honor to turn the podium over to Director Hilton, who will share additional details about this investigation.
Thank you, General.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. As you heard from Attorney General Platkin, we are here to announce the takedown of an organized auto theft network that was operating within and outside of New Jersey. In September of 2024, DCJ detectives began an investigation related to high-end vehicles being stolen in New Jersey and then shipped overseas. What they uncovered was an organized criminal enterprise that coordinated the theft of motor vehicles in multiple New Jersey jurisdictions, including towns in Morris County, Essex, Mercer, Middlesex, and Burlington counties. The vehicles were then stored in garages in the Bronx, New York, for later sale and disposition overseas. It is alleged that between early 2024 and March of this year, this criminal enterprise trafficked from New Jersey to parking garages in the Bronx approximately 43 vehicles with an approximate value of $3.6 million, where they ultimately ended up in shipping containers bound west for West and Southern Africa. The network consisted of organizers, car theft crews, and fencers, both high-level and mid-level, who acted as middlemen buying and selling the stolen cars. The organizers, big G and E, of the enterprise would identify high-end vehicles like Land Rovers, Mercedes-Benz, and BMWs for theft crews to steal. These two individuals remain unidentified. Issa Yara is alleged to have acted as a high-level fence on behalf of the enterprise. He is accused of maintaining contact with members of the theft crews, identifying types of vehicles to target, and working to traffic those vehicles overseas. The alleged mid-level fences, including Mamadou Kamara, Musa Doumbia, Arona Amadou, Muslim Ouedraogo, and Mubarak Jibril, are accused of receiving the stolen vehicles from the theft crews and paying them upon receipt. The charged theft crews in this case include defendants Jaquil Lewis, Jamar Ocasio, Daniel De Leon, Kadir Williams, and a juvenile who was 17 during the commission of the crimes. Luis, Ocasio, and De Leon are charged with second-degree use of a juvenile in the theft of an automobile. The method of stealing cars in this case usually involved the crew members breaking into a residence to steal the key fob of the owner's high-end vehicle. Sometimes these break-ins occurred when the owners were home and asleep. After the cars were stolen, they were transported to the Bronx to several parking garages to avoid law enforcement detection. After the stolen cars cooled off, they would be moved into cargo containers to be shipped out of ports in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and Staten Island, New York. From there, the vehicles would be sent overseas, most commonly to Western and Southern African countries. The stolen cars specified in the complaints include high-end vehicles taken from Edison, New Jersey, the New Jersey towns, Edison, East Windsor, Pompton Plains, West Caldwell, Mount Laurel, and Monroe. In total, 11 individuals were arrested and charged with various crimes. As I mentioned, 2 individuals have yet to be identified. The most serious charges they all face are first-degree racketeering and first-degree financial facilitation of criminal activity. These charges include significant sentencing exposure upon conviction. A conviction of first-degree racketeering can result in 10 to 20 years in prison, which is subject to the No Early Release Act, which you may already know, means that 85% of the sentence will be served before the individual is eligible for parole, and a fine up to $500,000. Similarly, a conviction of first-degree money laundering will result in a 10 to 20-year prison term with mandatory parole ineligibility of 1/3 to 1/2 of that time, and a fine up to $500,000. And that sentence would also run consecutive to any other conviction, which means it's stacked. They don't run at the same time. These defendants face a number of charges for their alleged misconduct, including leader of an auto theft trafficking network, promoting organized street crime, theft of a motor vehicle, receiving stolen property, fencing, and more. This takedown should send a clear message. New Jersey will not tolerate criminal enterprises that drive people to break into our homes and threaten the safety and peace of mind of our residents. I want to take a moment to thank the dedicated law enforcement professionals who made this operation possible. I especially want to thank our team at the Division of Criminal Justice who did incredible work here. I also need to thank the New York Police Department, HSI, Newark Police Department, the New Jersey State Police, and Customs and Border Patrol, as well as numerous local law enforcement agencies that provided assistance. And I need to give a special thanks to the Bronx District Attorney's Office for their assistance in this operation and all the work that they've been doing to stem auto thefts, which in this case intersected with DCJ's investigation in a way that helped us identify and charge individuals alleged to be funding auto thefts across our state. This investigation was truly a collaborative effort, which highlights the impact of our strong law enforcement partnerships, and as a result, New Jersey is safer. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. I just want to underscore for those doing the math, a first-degree sentence with subject to NERA can be 17 years before you can be parole eligible. So anybody who's thinking about engaging in auto theft in our state, know that we're going to come at you and hold you accountable to the fullest extent under the law. These are first-degree offenses that we're charging today, which carry significant penalties, and we're going to continue to seek them for people who would treat people's homes in our state like a cash register. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to Chief of the Division of Criminal Justice, Weldon Powell.
Thank you, General. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start out by thanking the Attorney General and the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice for challenging our detective staff to interrupt the cycle of auto thefts and associated violence that has plagued our state. Today, one of the groups responsible for this criminal activity has been taken down, thanks in part to our detective staff's dedication, commitment, and professionalism. Beginning in July of 2024, the Division of Criminal Justice detectives, in collaboration with the New York Police Department, Bronx District Attorney's Office, and our federal partners, launched an ambitious investigation into a dangerous auto theft network. The individuals involved in this network were responsible for numerous auto thefts and residential burglaries across the state. Thanks to the meticulous and persistence of our detective staff, key figures and leaders of this network have been taken off the street. The investigative team tracked hundreds of phone calls, social media accounts, and surveillance footage over months. As a result of our detectives, we were able to link together auto thieves that were shipping vehicles out of the country. New Jersey is a safer place because of your actions. I want to thank every detective and officer who played a role in this operation: the Division of Criminal Justice, New York Police Department, the Bronx District Attorney's Office, HSI, Newark Police Department, the New Jersey State Police, and Customs Border Patrol. This was truly a team effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I'll get to questions in just a second. I just want to underscore the work that we've announced over the past 8 days or so, just to show you the types of cases. As I say, when keeping the state of New Jersey safe is my top priority. Last week, we announced we were the first state in the country to sue Discord, in large part because of the policies that they've put and practices they put in place that allowed for the exploitation of kids, including kidnapping and spreading of child sexual abuse material. We took down one of the largest mob cases in recent memory, a 39 defendant indictment of a mob ring operating in New Jersey. Earlier this week, we announced a 26-defendant RICO case against a violent gang operating right here in New Jersey, again, helping contribute to historic reductions in gun violence in this city and across our state. Today, we're announcing a substantial, one of the largest auto theft ring takedowns in modern state history, to show that we are combating what we know people are concerned about, the safety in their own homes. And just for good measure, we sued one of the largest antitrust cases against a coalition of landlords and a tech company that are illegally conspiring to raise rents in the state. So we've been busy on behalf of the people here, and it's paying off. You can see it in the data. That data doesn't lie. It tells a story of declining crime and a safer state for a reason. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
We've all seen the videos, ring videos of these guys lurking around homes, going into homes to steal key fobs. Do we get a sense that they have a list of cars with addresses, that they're targeting those addresses, or are they literally just driving by and spotting them in the driveway? And follow-up question is, you mentioned those guys are getting paid on delivery of those vehicles to the storage facility. How much are they getting for, let's say, a BMW X7 or a Range Rover?
Yeah, I'll let the director answer the latter question. On the first, what we've seen both in this case and others is these are organized rings. They identify high-end vehicles, and they use organized teams to take them, transport them, and sell them. That's why we've had to take and have been committed to taking an approach that takes down the ring. It doesn't just look at the lowest level member of the organization. And when you do that, we've been successful at driving auto theft down. We know that these are organized, that this is not random in many instances. And by taking an intelligence-led approach, as we have here, we've been able to combat it effectively. I'll let the director add any details she has.
So I can't speak beyond the four corners of the charging documents that are on the record. So I can't give you specifics about how much they're getting paid for each vehicle. It's substantially less than the owners are paying for them, obviously. In terms of the targeting of the locations, the evidence that we have in this case is indicating the identification of high-end cars that the fencers are looking for, not locations.
So they're spotting them from the road?
I can't tell you exactly how it is. All I can say is that the evidence that we have is indicating that they are requesting specific types of cars, not locations.
Yeah.
The chief somewhat touched on the question of how did you guys do it this time. You touched on the fact that you use phone calls, social media. Can you be a little more specific as to how you use that intelligence on a day-to-day basis to track these guys?
Sure. So I'll let the director speak to specific evidence in this case that we can share. But as a general matter, we use all information available to build cases. We do this in gun violence, we do it in drug trafficking, we do it in auto theft. We identify people that are driving violence and crime in our state. And it's traditionally and typically repeat offenders doing it over and over again. So, like I mentioned, automated license plate reader technology is critical to be able to track stolen vehicles and their movements. We use surveillance, we use GPS, we use search warrants on phones, we use all of the available tools we have in law enforcement. And those tools, which I'm grateful that we've been provided in New Jersey and New York similarly, have a huge impact in our ability to not just catch a one-off case, but to build a larger case and take down an entire ring, as we're doing here today.
The Attorney General pretty much covered the investigative overview techniques that were used. The only thing that I would add is that the relationships between the law enforcement agencies where they can identify targets that they're dealing with and communicate, like between the Bronx and New Jersey, has been critical in allowing us to understand the fuller picture and take it from just looking at auto theft crews to taking it the step up of who's funding them.
Yeah, I want to just underscore the partnerships, which are huge, both from NYPD and Bronx DAs. By the way, we don't stamp passports for New Yorkers to come over to New Jersey. We're very happy to have them here. And those partnerships really are critical to us building these cases. Yeah.
How do cars that are in the Bronx then somehow get into shipping containers to get onto these ships? Isn't that stuff tracked every step of the way? What gets onto a cargo ship? What's in the container? I mean, how does it get to that step? We always thought that, that you would know what's on a cargo ship.
Well, again, in this case, as we noted, we've identified and tracked and seized a significant number of vehicles. But part of the reason why we're able to track them is the tools and technology that we have. I can't speak for, we don't, oversee the ports. I'd refer to the CBP for their tracking. But we're in this case, we're able to build strong case based on the information we had and ultimately seize those cars off of containers.
And you can go onto the container ships and then take those?
We partnered with federal authorities to remove them. Yeah. Any other questions?
Attorney General, for the two individuals who remain at large and unidentified, how difficult is it for you to figure out who is at the top of that rung, and how confident are you that you will be able to figure that out and to prosecute them?
With the folks behind me, we're going to catch them. We've got substantial evidence that we've obtained in this case. We're going to pursue every lead, and if it's the two of them, I'd suggest that they not sleep well at night because we're going to catch them real soon.
Do you believe they're New Jersey residents?
I can't comment further on who they may be. Well, thank you all for coming. I want to thank the law enforcement officers and the prosecutors behind me for their incredible collaborative efforts that have led to this case and so many others. And I look forward to seeing this case play out as well as many more that we'll be bringing soon. Thank you.